Thank you so much. Anybody out there would like to do that? All right, I got a sign-up sheet right here for lessons. Okay. But hopefully, by the end of my talk, all of you will have the confidence to go out and do whatever you want and not worry about how good or bad you'll be. This phrase, how good or bad you'll be, wasn't elegant enough for me, so I borrowed this phrase from Guy Kawasaki. Don't worry, be crappy. Will you say it with me? Don't worry, be crappy. Right. When you don't fear failure, amazing things can happen. I started playing music when I was 12 years old. By the time I was 14, I don't know why you're laughing. But seriously, I'm sorry that tube socks got cut out of the picture. By the time I was 14, I knew I wanted to be a professional musician. By 15, I was gigging steadily. I was so intense and passionate about music, my parents would have to ask me to stop practicing sometimes. But it seems so many other people were trying to tell me why I shouldn't be a musician. My band directors would say, Jody, if you're going to be a professional musician, don't get married, don't have kids, you'll never be able to support a family. You'll end up like me being a band director. So many other people, they would say, okay, you're going to go to college, study anything but music, so you'll have something to fall back on if music doesn't work. But hell no, I didn't listen. I became a successful musician in New York City. I did every kind of gig you can imagine. Now that takes a lot of hustle to do that, to be a successful musician. And somewhere, maybe in the 1,000th wedding reception I played, or the 3,000th lesson I gave, music started to become more of a job than a passion. And I got this book called The Artist's Way, and it has led to an amazing creative journey that's led me to an amazing life. I'd like to tell you about some of the things I did during the 12 weeks of exercises that the book takes you through. I recommend this to everyone. Every morning you get up and you write 3 pages about anything and everything. It doesn't matter what you write, you just do it. The simple act of writing every morning starts to open you up to your true desires and your demons as well. The Artist's Date helps you fill your well of creativity. Once a week, you go somewhere by yourself and you get inspiration. Something I started doing in my Artist's Dates was taking pictures of flowers. The only reason this is a big deal is because I never took a photograph in my life. I was convinced somehow that I had no visual talent. During this time, I also started writing short stories. And these short stories, again, were significant because in the 3rd and 4th grade, I used to write a lot of funny little short stories. By the 5th grade, in learning grammar, I got shut down. I never wrote again until I stopped worrying how correct or good my writing was. The morning pages taught me to not worry about the quality, but the quantity. Just show up and do it. A lot of these stories really weren't very good, but it's significant, and it was great that I kept going, kept writing, because one of those stories is what got me my company, JodyJazz. Also, all of us have negative messages that we've received sometime in a formative development time that might have been from a parent, an educator. I remember when I was 17, I was in a big band full of old men in their 40s and 50s. The band leader one night said to me, Jody, why are you majoring in music? You're never going to make any money at it. My lunch bill in a year is more than you're ever going to make in a year. And by the way, when I was your age, I was a better player than you. This guy was a bummer. So I decided to write a letter to him. And I wrote this letter. I said to him, you were wrong about me. I became a good musician. I became a successful musician. I made money. I bought a house in Westchester County. I did this and that. And by the time I finished it, I signed it, an actual weight lifted off my shoulders. And through these exercises and things that I was doing, all these things tend to cut the tethers that are holding you down to the ground and let you soar. During this time, I started acting and thinking without fear. And here are the sequence of events that led me to getting my company, JodyJazz. I decided to go to a jazz educators conference in New Orleans that was going to cost me quite a bit of money. And my old musician self, kind of careful with money self, would have never gone for this. But in this creative flow, I just decided to do it. I went to the conference with this open mind and heart, and I was really touched by many of the performances and talks there. And it actually reconnected me with that excitement and passion that I felt when I was a kid about music. I also met a man named Santi Runyon. Santi was a famous mouthpiece maker, and he had played Al Capone's speakeasies in the 30s. He taught Charlie Parker lessons. Santi knew, he could remember everybody he had ever met. They called him Santi because he was famous for giving things away. So I wrote another short story about the conference and meeting Santi, and I sent it to him. He must have been touched because he invited me to be a featured performer at his 93rd birthday party down in Lafayette, Louisiana. Of course, I went. I didn't worry about how much it was going to cost. I hung out with Santi for a few days, and while I was there, I tried one of his mouthpieces, and I decided to play it at his party. I was a big hit at his party. And I went back to New York. I was still playing his mouthpiece. It was good, but it wasn't just right for me. And I called Santi and said, I'm not going to be able to play this mouthpiece anymore. It's not free enough blowing. Doesn't have enough bottom in the sound. He said, Jody, why don't you come back and let me customize it for you? So I did it. Again, not worrying about the money. Santi was a master with mouthpieces. And he customized that mouthpiece, and it became great. I said, I love it, Santi. Thank you. He said, well, Jody, we can make that mouthpiece for you and call it JodyJazz, and you can sell some. I was shocked, and I said, thank you very much. I figured I would sell a few to students, and that would be the end of it. But word got out on the internet, on saxophone forums and things. People wanted to buy some from me. So I saw this opportunity, and I decided to go for it. I built a website. I traveled for the next many years down to Louisiana 7 times a year. I'd work in the Runyon factory all day, and then at night I'd hang out with Santi in his studio for a few hours. Santi always said the secret to his longevity was 2 bourbon and Cokes a day. But, well, we had 3 on many occasions. So Santi gave me an incredible gift of this mouthpiece with my name on it, but it really wouldn't have amounted to much had I not been on this journey, not afraid to go for things when it felt right. The very things that I had been doing in my artist dates and these creative things, like taking photographs, writing, I wrote my website, I took all the photographs, I took risks like going to trade shows, and I wrote my ad copy. In my prior life, I felt maybe, okay, I'm a musician, I don't have any other things to offer, creative things. So this Artist's Way really opened me up just to a world of creativity. I wasn't looking for a mouthpiece company, but it just happened. So what do you want out of life? This is so important. You think about it, it takes introspection. It's so important. Think of what you really want. Don't be afraid to dream big. When you're in this positive, creative flow, amazing things can happen. This one, you deserve good things. You need to know it, and you need to believe it. So, what did I want? Well, one of the things I really wanted, I was thinking, okay, I want to travel around the world, play music with my best friends. Here we are in a club in Berlin. We've been many times. This happened, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm playing on one hand on my sax, another hand on trumpet. The trumpet player's got his strumming the guitar. The guitar player's got his arm around me, and he's playing the bottom notes. That happened on a long train ride from Berlin to Switzerland. I said, we got to do something funny, So it's nothing better than playing and traveling with your best friends. And JodyJazz has helped make this happen. I also wanted to help people and touch people. And truly, around the world, people come up to me with their mouthpieces, their JodyJazz mouthpieces. They say, this mouthpiece changed my life. And here's just another example of helping people. We heard about this band that had an important concert to do for an educators conference. Their saxes didn't have good jazz mouthpieces, nor the funds to get them, so we gave them mouthpieces. I went to the concert. The kids played great. They got 3 standing ovations in a ballroom full of 500 music educators. I told my friends at Downbeat Magazine about this program, and they wrote an article about them. And some months later, the band program was about to be cut completely. The band director took that Downbeat article, showed it to the superintendent and the Board of Ed, and they didn't touch his budget. And his budget, he's still thriving to this day. Okay. You, go out, be creative, do anything. Don't worry about the direction or the outcome. Figure out what you want in life and expect good things to come your way. Act with no fear. Trust that the universe will fill in the blanks for you. And I'd like to tell you about one more dream when I was figuring out what I truly wanted. This was a very foreign idea. This image kept popping into my head of me on a big bed with 3 kids and a beautiful wife. Our 3rd child, Lola, was born this past August. Thank you.